Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software Great Tech Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. My guest today is Rob Norton. Rob is responsible for new business and existing client relationships at PlanRadar, leading the UK's focus into compliance and fire safety. Rob advises clients on the use of a digital platform to construct and operate buildings and assets to meet new building safety requirements and implement the golden thread. He has 12 years of experience in construction industry, having worked as an engineer before joining PlanRadar 4 years ago. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you for having me, Todd.
Looking forward to it. So I always like to get started with kind of your origin story. How'd you get into the construction industry to begin with?
It's an interesting one, really. Sort of growing up and being around construction and having a father sort of in that area, went into that engineering sort of background and trying to use my hands to start off in those early periods of life, and then sort of progressed into that, the digital side of it, because that's where I'm more suited, to be honest.
Yeah, interesting. What about the digital side is kind of a gravitational pull over there?
I think it got to the point of, I wasn't as good using my hands as I could have been, or some of the people around me. So really went into that digital side and the transformation of how we can sort of change the way that the construction industry is even working, as an example, which obviously led me on to PlanRadar as such, and trying to find new solutions to support the sector.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm always I tease that you wouldn't want to live in anything that, or even walk through anything that I have built. I'm fascinated with construction and the technology side, but I have all the mad respect for people that can actually build it and do incredible things, because it's not necessarily one of my skill sets.
I know exactly how you feel there, so don't worry, Todd.
Perfect. I'm in good company then. So I mentioned in the intro about the golden thread of implementing that. What's the golden thread?
So obviously the origin of the golden thread is sort of dating back to, I think it's 1978, of capturing information on sites, so that audit trail. But more recently, the actual terminology golden thread has been adopted based off of obviously the Grenfell Tower, where I think 72 people lost their lives to that tragic fire. So what the golden thread of information is capturing all of the information on site based off of fire safety, as a perfect example. So who is installing any material on site? Let's use like some compartmentation or some fire door as an example. Have they got the qualification? Is it the material that's actually from the design phases? Is it the material being used actually on site and being installed to the manufacturer's recommendations and specifications? So what we've done there is tracked it all the way from the start of a project through to the delivery. So you're capturing that golden thread of where it was manufactured, who's installing it, when it was installed, all the way through to handover, and then that facility management thereafter as well. So it's the full life cycle of everything being brought into a construction project.
Mm-hmm. What are the hurdles that currently exist in the industry along that golden thread to make that a true reality?
There was, look, in the UK, we're sort of in a unique area there. I think it's been a lot of the time, it was pen and paper based. Everything that was going into site was just saying, yep, that is indeed what is being installed. And if you came over to the UK and saw some of the projects, I've genuinely seen newspaper being brought off of facades, the outside of the buildings, as being used as insulation. So, nice flammable material there being used as insulation on lower income areas. So that was one of the sort of big challenges. And I think it's trying to get everybody in the sector to adopt it and work from the same sort of processes and methodology. And we've sort of started to figure out that maybe the competency to install it to the right standards isn't there across the entire sector here in the UK. And if we start to look at this in a global sort of area, is everyone competent and doing the work to the sort of standard that really is there to be protecting lives or saving lives in case there was a fire and there was the wrong fire door in, as an example there.
Mm-hmm. So what needs to be done then to help level up that competency gap?
These are the questions that the industry is sort of asking at this moment in time. It's going to come down to training. Um, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to like the mindset of every individual. If we're all working towards, a certain goal as the example, look, we don't want any more of these casualties or these drastic incidents to happen in the future, and everyone genuinely is there instead of just looking at their bottom line, which is what everyone sort of, we have to adhere to there,
Mm-hmm.
and looks at the sort of saving lives, making sure this doesn't happen, and improving the sort of the compliance as an example and the safety of a structure. If that mindset sorts of changes, that's what's going to be the big impact and driver on the entire sector, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, so what does connected construction then look like, and what does that really mean to you? That's it's a big kind of buzzword and goal that's been thrown out in the industry right now. But what does that look like in practice to you?
So it's bringing in these digital platforms, something on site that everyone is involved in or has that the ability to connect to, and they're invited in, they can receive their comments, and it's in like that the one central source of truth,
Mm-hmm.
either on site or connecting it back to the existing digital platforms in the back office, like the likes of an ERP system as an example, or a CDE document management platform. It's trying to piece all of that together, because too many times, and this was one of the problems with Grenfell, is that information was not stored correctly. It was all over the place. And if we look at delivering projects now, how many times is there a comment in a WhatsApp message here? There's an email message with some information. There's a bit of paper somewhere in a storage container, and we can't access the right information at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where that digital transformation is really coming into play to help support the sector of, we don't need shipping containers full of documents. That information is now stored in your mobile phone or off on the cloud that you can easily locate in a matter of seconds.
How do you get everybody up and running on the same standards, using the same platform, and kind of create the awareness of this issue to create that buy-in?
It's a great question. That was one of the original challenges that we sort of found at PlanRadar, and any company for that matter, is we go into the construction industry and we're trying to introduce digital platforms to a sector that, 5-10 years ago, this was unheard of to start using a digital piece of software. So how do we focus on this, and how do we drive this? And we took a step back and really focused on the individuals on site doing the work and carrying it out. And it's that simplicity. If you can make sure that it's simple and easy to use, and you're training people in a mannerism that helps support them moving forward, and they can really see the benefit of it, then they're more willing to use it. If you overcomplicate a mobile app as an example, you stop using it within a matter of seconds.
Mm.
And where we've really adhered to, and a lot of ourselves and our competitors as well, is we actually use the same sort of images or logos that you'd see on the familiar platforms, like an example, like a Facebook or a WhatsApp, the menu bar, the messaging chat channel. They're used to seeing these same icons day in, day out. So actually it becomes very familiar very quickly. So that
Yeah.
adoption rate on site is phenomenal.
Yeah. I love that. I think one of the things that uh, baffles me a bit on construction tech is there's so many things that we do in our daily life that we just take for granted, and everybody's using technology. And then you come into construction, and the knock on construction is that it's an industry that's technologically backwards and stuff, and that's not true. It's just that there's the expectation that we bring in when we come into the construction, going on a job site or whatever, is that we don't have the same tech and the same features that we do in our personal life. And so I like that you're bringing in the kind of the expectation and the experience on the personal side into the construction side. I think that's really needed, and that will help create the adoption that is needed throughout construction. So kind of thinking through the possibility of the future of where it's going, where do you see the construction digitization really moving in the next kind of couple of years?
Well, it's quite exciting times because everyone at the moment is really looking on the 3D BIM models and the digital twins of all the information captured on site as well. So this is where we're sort of here now, and it's slowly being adopted. I think there's always you always get this initial pushback because it's scary to some individuals. We are changing the way people are working from the site through to the back office. And let's not pick on an older generation, but that's where the initial fear factor sort of lies. They can get onto it, but there is that hesitancy there. Um, Whereas, we talk about 3-4 years, I genuinely believe that like 50 to 80% of construction sites will be on a digital platform of some sort, managing tasks or programs and so on and so forth, because they're starting to realize those real key benefits of how it can support them and enhance the project and streamline that delivery as opposed to hindering them, because the technology is adapted and has progressed massively over the years.
So how do you, sorry, the pardon the pun, yeah, how do you bridge the gap between the different generations there and bring in people that maybe it's not even generational, bringing in the people that are more skeptical on technology? How do you bring them into the fold and say, no, this is easy. It's not the technology that was you may have tried 10 years ago and it didn't work. It's come a long way since then. How do you bring them into the fold?
It's really got to go back into the really nurturing individual sort of structure. If you're nurturing people and showing them how that they can use the system without trying to overcomplicate it, that's how we at least get them onto it. There's that initial, I've shown my dad and my parents as an example of how to use the system and put it in front of them, and they are big technophobes, by the way. But if you've got that patience and you show them how it's going to work and how it's going to benefit their lives, then actually they get quite a nice bit of buy-in, and they're happy to work with something as an example. And I found PlanRadar and some of the other companies that we sort of work with as well, is the person that's actually what class themselves as a self-proclaimed dinosaur. If you can convince them and you can support them, that is your biggest advocate day two. And they'll always work with you because you've given them the time and they really see the benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You had a very insightful line there of making sure that they see the benefits for them. I think all too often the trap that a lot of technologists fall in is they have the benefit for kind of one persona, if you will, and they just keep talking about that benefit to every single persona that they come in contact with, instead of figuring out what are the pain points for that specific person that they're talking to, and then addressing that specific kind of use case. It's not a one size fits all. I think we have to be pretty good at tailoring the message and the benefits to our specific audience.
Exactly. If you relate it to another sector, if you were driving, let's say, an Aldi as an example, and I've given you an instruction manual for a BMW, all of a sudden you're not going to really get on with it. They're quite similar, but you're never really going to understand it. So if we can tailor our training and our support based off of the individual that's going to be taking the driving seat as an example, and it's showing them the right information in a way that they can understand it, then they're going to be absolutely flying on the highway within a matter of seconds, as opposed to what is going on here. So again, it comes back to that real nurturing and support element of the digital platforms in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get a little bit more practical. How do you see the digital solutions really helping shape the future of site management?
Well, you think everyone's talking about sustainability as an example. How I would hate to think of how many trees have been chopped down on this planet for site diaries and permits that are on site that are being written onto. It must be into the hundreds of the millions, isn't it, realistically? So let's talk about that sustainability side. Is these digital platforms like ourselves can take your sites completely paperless. With that, you're not logging it, you're streamlining this process because it's captured off of your mobile phone. You don't have to go and find a site manager to have a counter signature. They instantly receive a push notification or an email to then countersign your permit, as a great example here, and it's automatically logged for you. You don't need to go and upload it to the wrong folder. It's instantly logged in the right place with an audit trail within a matter of seconds, and then you can actually start your work that day. a great example, if you're on a busy site, how many times in the morning have you been walking around for that site manager for a signature on a piece of paper? And if he's not in the cabin, that could be an hour, 2 hours. I think someone told me they spent 3 hours the other day waiting for a signature so they can go and use a ladder. What?
It's efficient.
I mean, what world are we living in here? So,
right. Yeah. So what's the ideal workflow then, and bringing in the tech stack side of things as well too?
I mean, it's getting everybody on site. There's hundreds of different platforms being used, and where we sort of focus as ourselves is to make sure we can provide that one central source of truth on site. Okay. And then integrating with the back office system. So it's trying to get everyone onto a platform that's going to work for them, where they can have that central source of truth. Because we've highlighted some of the individuals in the sector as an example, that they might be of a higher age as an example, or a bit more of a technophobe. But if they've got 10 different platforms to start working off of, it's going to create that level of confusion again. Or what am I doing on this platform as opposed to that platform, and what am I putting on over here? So it's to try and bring in that centralization of digitization, and that there's a word that we use in the UK is like interoperability. So being able to talk to each other's systems, connecting to them, so you've got the best of the best, and that's generally what I believe in, and how we're supporting the sector from a field-based process.
Yeah. So you just brought up one of my favorite topics with interoperability. How is it working? How does PlanRadar really connect all the different data pieces together?
Obviously, it's good, really, really good topic. So because our system is fully bespoke in the way that we can capture information, and we can customize the metadata fields, so the headings of the question sets and even the answers that the individuals are using PlanRadar to capture, we can then integrate our platform via an open API to any of your pre-existing systems, as long as they've got an open API, or we integrate with them. So that could be your Power BI, your SharePoint, the likes of let's say go down the route. If Procore have got the open API, and so on and so forth, to make sure again you're getting the best platforms on the sector. If they don't do this, and let's say you've got a standalone system, you've got PlanRadar as an example, what we also believe in is the ability to export the information at any time, and it's free of charge. So you can export anything that we're doing via a CSV file or an Excel, or even a PDF format, to then import it into another system as well, if you didn't go around the open API and the automation route there.
Gotcha. How should firms think about then really maximizing their data that they have coming in? One of the problems that is happening is that there's so many different kind of software. There's so many different data lakes that are out there, and there's influx of data, but then there's no real strategy, honestly, to figure out what to do with the data. And so you're just collecting data for data's sake. But how do you look at that and have a real targeted strategy of, this is what we need to collect, this is why we're collecting it, and this is what we're doing with the data?
It's funny, I was going to flip that back on you there as well, and ask the same bit, but that's exactly what we would say to someone. Look, if you're just going out on site and you're capturing information for the sake of capturing information, what are you really looking to achieve with it? It's to have that clear mindset of, look, if we use defect tracking as a good example. If you're going out on site and we're capturing defects, what we're trying to highlight here. Now, you can use PlanRadar or these digital platforms to actually discover trends. And something that you might look at is, okay, we're working with a particular contractor on 10 different sites, so one contractor company, and we've got lots of people working for them. So with that, you can use this data to then discover the trend of which sites are performing better. This contractor in particular is great at the Atlanta region, but in the Nevada region, the contractors are really falling behind. They're causing us absolute mayhem. So how can we highlight this? Okay, look, well, there's no point continuing with this contractor here. We really want to keep you in the Atlanta region. So discovering this data of who's causing the issues on site is a great example. Or, let's focus on the positives there. They're fantastic here, no issues with this contractor. Let's make sure we're awarding them more jobs, because we're never having issues. They're always adhering to their SLAs, as an example. another really, some of the big data and how you're sort of capturing it is coming off of this golden thread, right? At the moment, we've not been the golden thread in the Building Safety Act around the fire safety. One of the tasks that we sort of gone is we haven't been told exactly what we have to capture, to what sort of extent yet. So it's open very much to everyone's, there's certain elements, of course, but it's still open to people's interpretations of exactly what we have to capture on site. So we've got customers going to that gold standard. So look, it's an overkill sort of phase, but we know, look, we're really safeguarding ourselves. No one can come after us in the future because we're definitely doing our bit. But that is very much open for interpretation. And we know we're never going to get the answers off of the building safety regulator because they also don't want to be liable for it.
Right.
So it's using that that common sense, that common knowledge of what do we need to do and how do we better ourselves to then better the future or the sector as such as well.
So how do you then create the unofficial industry standard that people can kind of opt into and buy in a kind of critical mass way that this becomes the standard that you're going to start collecting? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. So what we've sort of done, and I think our competitors are sort of doing, is we've really gone to the experts in the sector. We work with companies like Arup, Global H. Arup was a massive fire consultancy specialist. Global HC, which is a multifaceted fire safety company as well, and they've got, I think, 3 or 4 of the level 5 fire engineers in the UK working for them. So what we've done is really gone to the specialist, gone and asked their advice on what they need to capture and what they think would work right for them. And we've tried to help support the rest of the sector by doing this as well. So look, this is what they're doing. We believe they're at the forefront. We try and get you to this sort of standard as well to help support you. But we have the ability to amend and change this at any time. And we don't believe in charging people for this because we know legislation is going to be changing consistently in the UK over the next 5 to 10 years, as an example.
Yeah. Who do you think drives the standards? Is it industry? Is it technology? Is it government driving the standard? What's that combination ideally should look like?
I mean, I wish it would be the digital platforms, but it's definitely not. It's really sort of the government are giving you one sort of standard, and then I think it's open for that interpretation because some of the other contractors that you're working in will then go, right, well, this is the government standard, but how do we do better than that? How do we always stay above the line? And there's really good working groups like the Building a Safer Future here in the UK that have also put in their sort of standards and their guidelines to making sure that you really are ticking all the boxes and going above and beyond. And it's not just there for a checkbox exercise day one. We're constantly monitoring this as well. So it's not, well, thank you for my medal, I'm going to walk away. It's we just talked about at the beginning of the conversation. It's really that mindset of the sector. It's government led here, but it's got to come from the industry. And in the nicest way, the industry was a bit on a different mindset, and they're sort of slowly coming onto terms now of let's not penny pinch, so to speak, and really go, right, let's make a difference.
Yeah. So circling back on the sustainability aspect that you brought up a few minutes ago, what do you think will really make the biggest sustainable impact on construction?
It's hard for me to say because I'm not a carbon emissions expert in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, I know that a big impact will still be trying to take some sites paperless. That's the impact that I personally know about. But it's trying to reduce those carbon emissions overall, and coming from the sustainability side, using insulation as such. That's not my specialist sector. So apologies there.
Yeah, no worries. I think that don't diminish the digital aspect of it. That's huge. I heard a quote at a conference a few weeks back that has stuck with me, and it's digital waste exponentially increases physical waste. So in the construction industry, if we can solve a lot of the pain on the digital side and get people more into the digitization, the digital transformation of construction, that just as a byproduct helps reduce a ton of physical waste and creates a more sustainable construction industry.
Yeah, I know that. Let's obviously talking on that digital side, and something I sort of do know about is that rework element. Ensuring that the right people have the right plans in their hands at the right time. If
Mm-hmm.
you start looking at distributing digital plans onto a site, I'm sure anyone that's listening would want to go, well, what do you mean by that? Well, it's how many times have someone been working to an outdated set of plans and drawings that have had a new revision uploaded, but it hasn't been issued to site yet, and all of a sudden you've got to take down tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands and millions of pounds worth of material because we accidentally done it wrong because the plans weren't updated or issued to that table that you were working from.
Right.
Far too often.
Yeah.
So this is where that digital platform can really come in, is where we can reduce or limit rework to a certain level because they have always got the right information there. They're working off of the right plans, and that's almost guaranteed, especially if there's an internet connection on site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. What do you see as really the next step in the industrialization of construction?
Cool. I saw some really exciting things that we were at some events. I think it's going to be the automation of these machines that are building houses, as an example, from concrete. Large 3D printers realistically they're incredible. I was
Yeah.
watching what absolute monstrous pieces of kit, but it's really impressive. Between that and modular builds is coming more and more popular here in the UK, especially. I think there's definitely going to be a big lead towards that moving forward.
Yeah. No, I for sure agree. I love the modular aspect of it as well too. I think that's really where the future is going. The convergence between manufacturing and construction is that train has already taken off.
Yeah.
Now we just got to really get on the ride and have fun, figure it out,
Yeah.
and move forward in that direction because that's where it's going.
Yeah, well, obviously,
Uh,
your pun intended is people are really bridging the gap in that sector, obviously, because they're highlighting the reduction of overall cost as well, and the
yeah,
QA processes on site, reduction of the rework, and everything is fitting in more smoothly, so they're delivering projects to a faster standard. So, which you'll see, again, helps on that bottom line sector. This is where it's at now. Think of how much the improvements that this is going to make in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be significant.
yeah, for sure. So that's really kind of embracing the innovative mindset. So what does innovation mean to you?
I mean, the innovation is constantly looking at what's there, what are those sort of issues, and how can we as individuals improve it. What can we do to make a change within this business or even in this sector.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal as a business was originally to improve the communication and the collaboration on all construction projects of facility management and bring them into one central source of truth, so that one database that you have that transparent information on site, as an example. And then we've really sort of focused as well and on that taking those sites paperless, of that innovative sort of area, is everything can now be done in one place, and then you're starting to save the trees and so on and so forth for the sustainability sides.
Yeah. Oh, how do people find out more information on what you guys are doing at PlanRadar and connect with you?
So you're welcome to go visit our website, www.planradar.com. We also have an office. We're a global company as well, so we've got offices in the US, UK, and all over Europe and Australia. So we will have a local team to be able to support you, provide you with a demo so you can see exactly how PlanRadar can support you in your sector.
Awesome. Well, final question for you. If I could give you all power, you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing in construction, what would you pick to innovate?
God, that's a good question, isn't it? I'm a bit of a tech nerd, so we're going to have to go down this route, and sorry for the construction sector, but it would be the use of robots more on site, or this AI technology, putting brickwork together, putting walls up as an example. You see some really impressive robotic work going on, and there's an Amazon warehouse, an example. In my mind, how far away are we from something like that? I'm sure the sector would absolutely hate to hear that, because that's a lot of people out of jobs. But I wonder how far away we are from something like that. I don't think it's too
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, I agree. Some of those machines, you watch those videos. I mean, you can go down some rabbit trails like on Instagram or something, seeing the videos of just such cool robots happening on job sites. They're already happening. I mean, they're out there now, just bringing it into kind of the critical mass adoption phase. Probably not that far off. I agree.
No, I'm going to say if Elon Musk has anything to do with it, I think it's only
That's
five to 10 years away, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, Rob, thanks so much for taking the time and joining the show. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Todd, it's been an absolute pleasure, and look, thank you very much for having me today.